thank you all for being here. And we'll have questions and answers, or I'll stop from time to time and ask if anyone has a question. Well, mushroom medicinal mushrooms are grown at university from spores that were cultivated at universities originally, and from Europe, Asia, and the United States. And they were introduced to me in 2006. And it happened that each of these universities, when they cultivated these strains, they originally took something in the wild that was grown on wood, dead plants, or on soil, and they now were cultivating these various species on autoclave fruits, vegetables, and herbs. And as all the teams did their experiments over decades, they cultivated what is called like a hybrid, because this is a strain, which now you have spores, which are not what you find in the wild or from the species you buy at the store or even at a health food store. And actually there's over hundreds of different teams in the world doing research on fungi or on mold or yeast. But what brought this about is when one team asked myself and another team to participate in the research on a strain that they cultivated, and when they fed it to transgenic mice and rats, the tumors would go away very rapidly. So they wanted to figure out all the chemistry, and they asked us to participate. And it was too vast when we looked at the chemistry, and we said we need a lot more researchers to participate in this. So that's why we searched the globe for other researchers to collaborate with. And we found others in Europe, Asia, and the United States who were having similar results with the strain they cultivated that was also successful with tumors in animals, cancerous or benign or cancerous tumors. So 2 years went by when we all were continuing the collaboration, but then I was confronted when I was in Europe. One of my colleagues in a meeting shared with us that he got a phone call on a Friday afternoon that his best friend came down, had glioblastoma and stage 4 lung cancer, and they only gave him a month to live. So it made me, I took a moment to think, and I said, well, and then I shared with him and everyone at the conference table what I was doing with other teams. And I said, what do we have to lose here? We have a man who doesn't have a chance of survival, but we have animals that are beating tumors in 7 universities in the world. So I contacted over the weekend team members from each university, and they agreed to ship product to San Diego, and we put together a formula made up of those specific strains that were the most beneficial from each university, specifically with tumors. And we shipped that to the man, and we said, eat it just like the mice and the rats. And he did that, and he called in 5 days and says, I have a lot of energy. And then on the 22 days later, his physician called and said, there's a miracle. All the tumors in his brain and his lungs were gone. We then used the same formula with 3 more patients, and we had the same outcome within a month. So as you know, where do we go from here? Well, it took about 4 months of discussion because, you know, between the legal departments and the primary investigators of each university, we don't have enough answers to make any claims or representations. So the compromise was to beta test this, and we beta tested it in 24 teaching hospitals, and over a 2-year period we had over a 90% success rate or positive outcome. But we can't make claims because the chemistry is too vast. Anything that's natural that's too vast, we can't decipher enough of the chemistry to go to the FDA and say, okay, this can be approved as a cure or to treat. So we went ahead and went into business of growing this in collaboration, reproducing with the same substrates, the same environment, the same spores, and also cultivating at the same time. What that means is, or harvesting at the same time, because the day that you harvest will make a difference in the chemistry of that specific strain that each university deciphered. And so we didn't want to change anything, we just wanted to replicate what each university did. And so that's what we do now. Plus we provide education. And we're in this discussions to expand on this in different parts of the world, to grow it in other locations around the globe. So I'm gonna go through a few. Our mission, anyways, is to save lives, improve health, and reduce malnutrition worldwide. Next is educate healthcare professionals and the public on the product's benefits and uses, and facilitate clinical trials to support claims, awareness, and credibility of all diseases for insurance reimbursement, and so the products can become a standard of care protocol. Now that's a hard lot to swallow, but we have been in discussion, you know, with even the CDC or the National Institute of Health, is what is called orphan diseases, and we've already met with the insurance industry for the purposes of, you know, cost of healthcare is skyrocketing, and if there is a national protocol, they'll consider it for reimbursement. So we are going to do phase 1, 2, and 3. Originally it's 118 diseases, but now when we add gram-negative bacteria to the thing, it's going to be over 300 diseases, and that's with our collaborators, and we're going to be, that's a large project to do, but we've already written 1 grant. Well, we have 6 more we're writing as we speak. I would think in 6 or 7 years we will have some positive, we'll have trials published, so then insurance would be able to participate. Other than it's going to provide more credibility as well. We are registered with the FDA, we are kosher, we are organic, and we'll get whatever is necessary in the jurisdictions, wherever they may be. And to build upon the recognized premier source of these hybrid medicinal mushrooms worldwide is to provide them for all who need it. And what we have found that the energy, or if you wish to call it the per calorie, is far exceeds what it does than any other food. Where we've had patients that trialed without telling us. They would go ahead and just have 32, 40 grams a day with just water and minerals, and they were able to sustain themselves for 2 months. And well, that's amazing. That's like the perfect ketone diet, isn't it? So if you don't have any glucose, you know, cancer cells will die in that environment. But they did it for the purposes of experiment, and we've seen people lose a lot of weight, and we've seen injuries healed, and old injuries healed, and what it's doing is increasing redox communication. It's reducing certainly inflammatory response in the gut and so forth because of the chemistry. And I'm going to go over some of the specifics, and we're going to answer more questions about those specifics with reference to the immune system. And this is getting back to the story when I was introduced. So I'm just going to, and so I'm just, this is just saying, articulating that we're growing the product in the clean room space, and our whole medicinals are used for, there's no additives, there's nothing added to it, it's the whole. We're not taking any extract at all. A lot of science has been based on extract, but most of the universities were not feeding animals. They were using the full myceliums, not even fruit body, in their trials internally. And getting back to how the product is packaged, it's, well, we've had product 7 years old and still has the efficacy. All products are gluten-free. We use autoclave fruits and vegetables, so there's no chance of, if there was any substrate left, would there be any gluten? There's no gluten at all. There's no soy. So the benefits. Well, the chemistry that comes from the combined hybrid strains of medicinal mushrooms originally cultivated there have a miraculous food that has over 4,000 beneficial chemicals, including all the essential amino acids, transition metals, enzymes, proteins, which far exceeds the beneficial chemistry of food, as we talked about earlier. So it supports the strength in the immune system, more T cells is produced, supports the modulation of the immune system, so there is no overactivity. We'll go into more detail on those in slides to come. And the mushroom chemistry penetrates the blood-brain barrier, and the mushroom strains create and secrete an array of antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal, and antiparasitic compounds. And in our literature and also on our websites, we've articulated what those are, what we do know. And that's from all our collaborators. Antibiotic compounds, and there's all the molecules there that has been found. And that's how we then experienced this was beneficial with Lyme disease, which is a gram-negative bacteria. Here we're talking about communication. This is including, between the cells. You see there's a proliferation or repair more rapidly, as well as your own stem cells are doing more efficiency because it's communication. It increases the production of ATP, you can see that. Also, in this chemistry, there is antioxidants, ergothioneine and glutathione increase. Gives the body a high level of energy which far exceeds any of the food on earth, as I just shared with you. Studies have shown there is no chronic or acute toxicity. Cell nucleus studies show there's no detrimental effects, and no DNA showed no mutations. DNA had no. It's safe with pregnant animals. It's been safe for those who are allergic to penicillin. So these substances in these mushrooms are regarded as biologic response modifiers, which basically means they cause no harm or place no additional stress on the body. They help the body to adapt to various environmental and biological stresses, and they exert a non-specific action on the body, supporting some or all of the major systems, including nervous, hormonal, and immune systems, as well as regulatory functions. Dosage observations compiled, debilitating diseases and severe illnesses, we show on average, for the best benefit with the shortest period of time is 32 grams a day or more with a food or beverage. Everyone's different, but we use that as a starting. But when you also add other protocols or you add different foods, you can get more with less, and we've experienced that too, such as with green vegetables or certain carbohydrates or even CBD. So you can get more with less. It's a picture of the products. We developed 4 different strains, four different formulas. The liver, what's different with the liver basically is like the immune, but we've added a strain called Antrodia, which comes from the Philippines. And that's also grown clean room, and it really promotes rapid regrowth of liver tissue. So if you have cirrhosis of the liver or a liver cancer, with all health challenges, the immune product is the starting formula to start with. And then maybe in 2 weeks to a month, then you would go to a different product here. Observations with cancer is just a month and a half on average of using the immune product. Unless you have multiple cancers, we've seen it 3-4 years. And then the neural and cognitive is based on a strain that came from Tokyo University, which shows rapid nerve growth. And so if someone has a brain injury or nerve damage, after they start on the immune product to balance the immune system, then we suggest using the neural product for a month or 2, and that is it. It works pretty fast. And then the blood sugar is really originally was designed for diabetes and high blood pressure. But again, diet really works. She talked about diet earlier. Diet can make a difference, and there's a lot of published studies in the world that show that. And you can reverse diabetes through diet. Also, a team at Boston University Medical School is suggesting that in their review is, they're studying it now, is even with reference to genetic defects, to prevent genetic defects. That's what they say, but I haven't received their study. But diet can do that too. But they say there's some enzymes, proteins, carbohydrates that are quite unique here. So they said all mammals, all humans should probably have 2 or 3 teaspoons a day. That's what they said. This is talking about the different blends and how we package the product. For example, the 6.9 ounce would basically give you 2 teaspoons a day for 30 days. That's the reason it was packaged that way. Or the 10.4 ounce is enough. So basically you can have 8 teaspoons a day. And, okay, it's about 2.7 grams per teaspoon, plus or minus, but every teaspoon is different. And the 1.3 is where you're going to consume 32 grams a day for 30 days. And that's a lot to swallow, but we see that you may only need it 5 out of 7 days, because you say, well, you woke up one day and I can't have it anymore, it's too much. And that's okay, your body's telling you that. But when you add it to it, and you eat it with green vegetables, or you eat it with, let's say, sweet potato, you can see you're going to get more with less. So why is because the carbohydrate molecules and the complementary science, which there's more science to articulate that, but we see that happening. It's like Ayurvedic medicine, when you add certain foods together, you're getting more benefit, or complementary. It's either the primary customers worldwide, and we sell to physicians and we sell to individuals. We don't publicize this. We don't sell it in health food stores, but we have health food stores have it on inventory, and if they find someone who has a need, they will sell it to them, but it's private. As well as many websites and health websites, the groups do carry, or they can get the product, but we don't permit anyone to sell it on the web unless it's ourselves. The reason is we run out from time to time. We have a limited capacity at the moment as well. This is just talking about the sterile production. It takes about 63 days for all the strains to grow. It's done in a sterile environment. Sterile water is used, autoclave substrates are used. We don't even breathe the same air that the fungi breathe. It's that sterile. We don't want any contamination from bacteria, viruses, yeast, or anything else. And again, what I said earlier, we're the only company that does it from beginning to end, other than a university itself. This is just the growing process. And so you have your proprietary substrates, you receive the substrates, we clean and autoclave those substrates, inoculate the spores, with the specific starter, which is agar, and then we use the specific substrate, and we add water, and we seal with a HEPA filter, and mushroom is grown. And the mushroom is removed and dried, air dried. It's not freeze dried, because freeze dries kill some of it. And then it's ground to powder, and then we store it and we pack it according to the formulas. How does the product work? Well, these are different organisms. These organisms basically breathe oxygen like you and I. They're more related to us than a plant. When growing, medicinal mushrooms excrete proteins, catalysts to digest the optimize the nutrients in its proprietary organic substrates to break it down to digest it. The hybrid strains of medicinal mushrooms then produce the best blend of enzymes, polysaccharides, proteins, and amino acids for our needs. And they stimulate our body's own proteins, enzymes, ATP molecules, redox communication molecules, hormones, and stem cells. Well, that's the result of the redox. And then molecules cause the apoptosis of gram-negative, gram-positive bacteria and some viruses which are resistant to most antibiotics. And what do we have with shingles?
With shingles.
We've had several people using it with shingles with some success, certainly. But I have a doctor in Miami Hospital who is experimenting and having success. But yes, with all the different, and that's just one health challenge, but it really, whatever health challenge we bring it to, we see a positive outcome. From physician to physician, to patient, or disease groups, the patients share from one patient to another. Well, there's also chemistry that supports the flow of glucose, adrenaline, and insulin in the blood. It has to do, but I'm going to get to the detail later. They support the stimulation of good cholesterol, dilation of blood vessels, and the absorption of free radicals in our body. We find that with this product, or even the blood sugar product, that we observe that you can have maybe a perfect cholesterol level in 30 days, even if you've been on medication for 30 years. But what do you have to do to maintain? Well, it's getting back to the diet, and we usually recommend that they take the blood sugar product, probably 2 or 3 teaspoons a day, or ongoing. And we have many patients doing that as we speak. So this is getting back into some of the chemistry, protein and organelle degradation from viral and bacterial infection, which distinguishes chemistry pathways. The oxidation causes cellular destruction, and I actually have diagrams of this. Usually I have 2 screens up, so I can have given you some examples. So it decreases, leading to decrease of function and ultimate cell necrosis or apoptosis. And then DNA expression is downregulated, and protein synthesis is stopped when protein warning signals are caused by abnormal cell chemistry. And as organelles are overwhelmed with negative feedback signals, the cell responds with programmed cell death. So proteins are created to be used to communicate within the cell, to direct the transcription of DNA to be used in the cell membrane as a cell surface receptor to create immune proteins like IgG, IgA, and IgE, to create protein chaperones which assist in busing proteins to places they are needed. So ER stress pathways is calcium homeostasis, elevated protein synthesis, misfolded proteins or aggregation, glucose deprivation, altered glycosylation, ER lack of ATP, ER swelling, oxidizing environment, and proteasome are overwhelmed. So ER-specific signaling pathways, highly specific signaling pathways ensure protein folding capacity is not overwhelmed, and these pathways are collectively termed the unfolded protein response, the UPR. So the UPR response is activated, a decrease in translation initiation, and chaperone proteins are created. ER is caused to swell to accommodate large protein size types, including IgG, and more cytochrome is produced. As many as 300 other functional proteins are created to regulate the ER environment. So the consequence of ER stress is diabetes, misfolded proteins, which lead to type 1 diabetes. Insulin is not correctly reduced, accumulation of misfolded proteins in the pancreas, which causes B cells to die through apoptosis. So consequences of ER stress is heart disease, homeostasis, induced proteins misfolding cause the UPR pathways to be activated, which this leads to an overwhelm, activation, and accumulation of cholesterol. Well, I'll end it here then, and thank you for being here.